It's Thursday, it's 5, and we're live. Welcome to Frankly Speaking, where truth is our mission, reality our realm. Said as we see it, and frankly as well. I'm Joe Spina, along with the Honorable Council President Daren, whatever your last name is, Cyr. How are you doing?
Good, Joe.
You
How
were feeling ill.
Yep, I was.
And you got a sabbatical.
Yep, couple
Now,
days.
you told me something off camera, and I'd like you to tell those folks. You asked me, I was mentioning that I'm coming down with something, I think, and I don't like the idea. And you asked me whether I got the flu shot, and I said no.
Right.
And then you gave me a little story, so let them know what they ought to do.
Yep. If you haven't got your flu shot, you got to get it, because last week, everybody in my family started getting sick. And the ones who didn't get the flu shot wound up being really sick. I was smart enough to get the flu shot. And
That's why you're council president, by the way.
And I was nowhere near as sick as everybody else. So, and they're telling you, even if you haven't got it yet, to go get it. And even if you think you're getting sick, go get your flu shot.
Was it your sister or sister-in-law that you said got sick, ended up 4 days in the hospital?
My sister went to the clinic in the morning, and they told her she didn't have the flu, and they said that she had, I guess was coming down with a regular cold, and by that afternoon she couldn't breathe. They had to rush her into the hospital, and she had full-blown flu and pneumonia. So she was there for 4 days.
Speaking of hospitals,
Yep.
we're about not to have one.
Right.
And they're thinking about putting together, you weren't here last week, and I wish you were because these are right up your alley, but let me review it. Pedro, if we have that medical village graphic, I know I'm all over the place, we can throw it up there, but apparently it takes a village. These are factual. There's only this is what the fellow who is head of partners said. He said, look, only 14% of residents need critical care in 215, and 31% could have gone to some mini clinic.
Right.
And apparently it's, 37,000 square feet what they want to put into this village.
Right.
Spending it, which is about 1/4 of the 20-acre, 5 acres are going to use. So my point is, 14% is a lot.
Yeah.
So to kind of brush that off as, that's,
Right. Well, they're going to be able to handle at least 77% of the emergencies that they've been handling. And it's going to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The village.
The village.
Yeah.
They're going to have, you can be able to get x-rays there, CAT scan, and I believe they're going to have a lab that's going to be there. But the reality of it is that they've got to take the hospitals and bring all the services that they provide into one location for the area that we live in. So the emergency that part of the hospital that's used up there on Linfield Street, it's still going to be there. So they don't need the building because they're not doing cardio there anymore. They're not doing cancer.
Which, let me go to the second point. That being the case, there's going to be 15 acres available there.
Right.
Last week, folks, I said to you, I threw out 3 questions about what's the best use for the 15 acres. And I'll go over 3 of them that I mentioned. And we got a lot of responses, and if I get, remember, I'll get to them. Mm-hmm. One was to try to entice Salem University to use that site for their nursing school and their wellness programs. Yep. Or extend it for North Shore Community College, which is a positive, space for them. Or thirdly, to place Pickering Junior High School at that site, retrofitted for Pickering Junior High School. And you were mentioning about Thurgood Marshall is already overcrowded and you fought like hell to jack up the population of that school.
Right.
So you could actually build they want 700, but you could actually build a bigger school up there to cater to more people. There are some drawbacks, and we got a fairly decent response on that. So, you said you're open to any ideas that anybody can come up with.
Well, right. I'm a firm believer in you take every option you have, put it on the table, take a look at anything, all of them. With the public's input, I can tell you that the mayor and the council have been working with partners about what they're going to do with the property up there. They're a business, so 2 or 3 of the options that you're talking about, the land's probably worth maybe $10 million, maybe more than that. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for instance, the city was to go up there and put the school there, so we have to come up with $10 million to pay partners to buy it.
Yeah.
So would Salem.
That's one thing, but the other thing is that the site has all the amenities that you need. You're not going to have to do very much in site preparation. You're going to retrofit buildings, I agree,
Right.
and you know about that. You're in the
Yep.
trades.
Yep.
So,
Well, what you're probably looking at is probably $40 to $50 million. Just looking at
I
it.
agree,
The same thing with the Pickering that we have now.
sure.
That's what you're looking at to retro that.
but I think that site is probably a lot better than trying to redo Pickering over. You know, in other words, I don't know.
It is in a way, but in all honesty, when they took a look at all the sites in the city, because of the location of it and how far outside, it's almost straight up to the Linfield line, they would have to change the school districts because you're going to have kids that are going all the way from the Fair State and off Highland Ave going all the way up to that part of the city, which doesn't sound like a pretty far distance, but it's over 2 miles, and a lot of these kids don't have transportation to get to school in the morning.
You know, that's why we have buses.
Yep.
Okay? And the other thing is this, they can stagger the opening of the school. Just an idea. Our number here is 781-780-9460 if you'd like to call and join the conversation. It's just an idea out there, and ironically, we got a number, and if I can find it, here's one, for example, from Malcolm Mitchell. He said, "Hi, Joe, Paul, watch your show. As usual, excellent. I like that. I'd like to comment on a few things mentioned in the last show. I fully support," he said, "putting Pickering Junior High School at the Union site." Now, he opposed the two-school formula before.
Yep.
It's a win-win deal. Lynn must connect to Boston, not via, and this is another issue, not via the ancient and dead Blue Line extension, but rather by an idea that was floated on your past shows. And I think you brought it up, which was a monorail. Was that your baby?
Not a
Or was it-
monorail, but we talked about incorporating the Blue Line into the railroad tracks that are there right now.
So in effect, you know, people come up, like you said, you want to be interactive. People come up with some really good ideas.
Yeah, and if I can just, I'm not sure where Malcolm lives, the district he lives in, but the people up in that neighborhood, I think they should have the most say as to whether or not a school goes up there.
Yeah.
And, you know, also be involved in, and the mayor agrees with what the type of businesses that, if there are any businesses that are going to go there, restaurant possible or something like that. If condos or apartments or single
You mean
family
at the
homes.
Union site?
Union site.
Yeah, I mean, that returns tax dollars, I agree. I don't know whether an apartment complexes up there would really impact the
Right.
traffic badly.
Yep.
You know, so you know, there's trade-offs, as you well know, and that's what
Right.
you have to talk about. But at least you're looking at it. If you could get these comments up there, Pedro, there's a couple that I could go over that had to do with that particular site. One of them here, Tom Fenton said, one of our better shows, by the way. Thank you, Tom. I'm sorry, Tim Fenton. Now, he said, sending North Shore Community students to that location would add to the Wyoma traffic problem. He's right about that. See, this is why he says, whereas it would just reverse the traffic if it became the new Pickering Junior High School. So they recognize there are problems, and you have to weigh those out.
Yep.
Let me see if I can scan this other one. Walter Carlton, he said, new to you guys, you do a great job, and thank you for the compliment, Walter. He was talking about a few years ago, the hospital, and it had a large group from the council and CEOs and partners were asked why they will never forget the COO said that government, I think, what he meant at the time was that Obamacare was taking large amounts of Medicare out of the system, and that was responsible. I really don't know.
I don't know that either.
You know, so, but anyways, let's get to the trash fee. Tell us about it.
Well, we've been meeting for the last 6 weeks with the DOR. And
Don't fear, Sears here.
with the DOR, all the financial people in the city council, the mayor, and numerous meetings, and the attorneys, and we've been trying to come up with a way to fix our budget crisis that's here in the city. And one of the things that are on the table is the trash fee. Now, I can't say exactly how much money it's going to be, but it's nowhere near what they were saying in the paper. Tuesday is when all the information of what is
This Tuesday coming up.
this fall Tuesday, the mayor and the council are going to do a press release, releasing exactly what's going to be in the home rule petition, what the fee is going to be in the trash fee, and it's unfortunately, because of the situation that we're in, we have to come up with more revenue.
Yes, that's true.
And it costs us over $7 million a year for our trash. And one of the ways that we can do that is to bring that cost down. And the other option is that if we don't do the things that are here, which the DOR is basically, they're working with us, unbelievably. But the other option is to go into
Who's the DOR?
receivership. Department of Revenue. And,
So why are they involved in this, whether you have the fee or not?
well, because in order for us to balance the budget, we're going to have to borrow money.
I got you.
When you go to set your tax rate, the DOR always
So they have to
takes a look
certify
at
it?
it to make sure that, yeah, it's what you're saying that it is.
There was a quote, and I could not understand it, regarding the trash fee. And the quote goes like this, if we can get it up there, Pedro. It says, "The goal was not necessarily to raise more money, but to make the implementation of the new fee easier." Now, I find that I can't wrap my head around that, because the goal is to raise money.
Right. And of course it is. It's to raise money for the city.
That's right, but to raise money. It's a
Whoever
tax.
said that, I can't speak for that person. Whoever reported it, and the way it was reported in the paper, I can't speak for that reporter.
It could be a misquote.
It could be.
We'll leave it at that. But let me get back to the original trash fee. The ordinance was back a while, right? During the Kennedy administration. Am I correct?
Right, a year ago.
And my understanding at the time, folks out there, see if it's your understanding too, that fee was strictly for out-of-town landlords of multiple dwellings. Am I right or wrong on that?
It
And
wasn't
businesses.
strictly for out-of-town landlords.
It was not for single family.
It was for multifamily homes.
Right, but not for the
Single family weren't included in it.
Exempt.
The mayor didn't want to include them. She felt as though because of what happened with the schools and the vote that was there, that it would be too hard to get the council.
But is it now applicable to in other words, Joseph S. Spina, Esquire, property owner, is now going to have to pay a trash fee?
We're all going to have to pay. So yeah,
I understand
if you
it.
own a single family home,
in effect, we have a tax to look forward to.
well, you can
fee
call
and
it
a
a tax. But the other option, as I said,
I understand.
and here's the option that's on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, that everybody in the city, because if the state came in and took over the city, which is called receivership, the state can tell us what we're going to pay. And what they're going to look for is $210 per unit in the city.
Per year?
Per year. So if you
what
owned
are
a
you telling me our
three-family
trash
home,
fee is going to be for a residential?
it's going to be the same across the board for everybody.
Which is how
I
much,
can say it's
roughly?
going to be less than $100
So a year,
a year.
subject to increase.
Subject, the way that it's written, it would be an increase every other year that can't be more than a certain percentage of what you're already
So
paying.
in other words, if by any other definition, it's a tax. So I just paid my quarterly real estate tax. The check just cleared today. I'm
Yep.
not happy about it.
Right.
And it has creeped up to $1,300 a quarter. Now, when I do the fast calculations, whatever I saved is pretty much gone.
Right.
Consumed by taxes. And here we have another fee going in. And if I'm not mistaken, Council President, and it's got nothing to do with you, it's the realities.
Right.
The reality is that the city is going to turn around with the new administration and say, oh, by the way, your house is worth more than it used to be. We're going to lower the tax rate, but your house is worth more. So ultimately, my $1,300 is going to evolve into $1,400 a quarter. Am I reading this right?
Right, you are.
Okay. You're an honest guy. I like that.
Yep. But the reality of it is, what you're saying, is that the value of everybody's property
gone up.
has gone up. We've lowered our tax rate. We try to do that every year. Everybody on the council owns houses in the city of Lynn. Some own more than one. If you lived in Peabody, and my house was in Peabody, I'd be paying probably the exact same amount of tax or more, because my house would probably be worth more in Peabody than what it is in Lynn. And you're getting the same services here as you are in Peabody,
Except
or Swampscott, or anywhere else.
but most of the people who are residential living in Lynn in single families aren't about to want to move. The
Right.
guys like me.
Right.
So in effect, whether it's worth 200,000, 300,000 is irrelevant.
Right.
The only thing that matters is I'm paying more every year to live in
Unfortunately,
my house.
the neighbor that lived next door to you
Yeah.
didn't want to stay in the city and decided to sell their house, and they're looking to get as much as they possibly can. For instance, one of my neighbors, 2 doors down, super guy, hated seeing him leave, wound up getting, I believe, $30,000 more than what they were asking for their price. We got a great new neighbor that moved in, but because they decided to move, my taxes are going to go up because the value of my property went up because he was able to sell his house for $30,000 more than he was asking.
Welcome to Lynn, Mr.
Welcome to
President.
reality.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll be real when we get back.
Yep.
My friend James Gandolfini and I got to know a lot of combat vets over the years, and it guts me that 22 of you are taking your own lives every day. Wounded Warrior Project is here to help. You don't have to go it alone. You hear me? You don't have to go it alone.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
And we're back to reality. Now, one of the ways in which you can offset increased taxes on the homeowner is obviously by an expansion of the tax base, which would mean development. Now, you and your ward, you've been pushing very hard for surplus land like Thurgood Marshall Middle School, the old Thurgood Marshall Middle School,
Yep.
in which you wanted to, or there was a proposal, a plan to make it senior housing and some mix, non-age restricted, and some retail stores. And apparently, the school committee is going to vote on it tonight as we speak, but there's only been one bid which cannot be revealed.
No, school committee's not voting on Marshall.
On Marshall? I thought that.
No, they're voting on whether or not
Oh, you're right.
for a new Pickering.
That's why you're here.
Yep.
See, folks, this is the council president who knows what he's talking about. So don't listen to those folks out there that know what they're talking about. And whatever you do, don't believe the item. So, Thurgood Marshall Middle School, one bid. Let me give some stats. If we can throw that up there, was closed at 2015.
Yep.
2015 rather. Is that correct?
Right.
172,500
Yep.
square feet. And you corrected me on this. The public hearing that you conducted the public hearing because you're the ward councilor.
Right.
And the neighborhood consensus, I have 100 units, that's what was written. You say it was more?
It was 120.
120 units for elderly.
Right.
And what about this 12 townhouses not age restricted?
It was with the possibility of townhouses.
Possibility, okay.
But they were age restricted.
They were age restricted.
Yeah.
Okay. And the ground floor was going to be retail, pharmacy, doctor,
Right.
whatever.
It was ground floor. If there was going to be commercial space in there, it would be for senior services
Right.
type of things. Beauty parlor, doctor's office possible, things like that.
A
barber shop.
contained environment.
Right.
Well, that's a good idea. Now, what about the school committee proviso? And I'm not sure in it. Apparently, the school committee said, oh, by the way, you have to pay a minimum of $4 million for the property, and it will have an assessed value of $9.7 million, which is nice for the tax base.
Right.
What about that?
The reason why they did that was because they own the property.
The school?
The school.
Not the city of Lynn?
The school department, right.
Separate from?
The city originally owned it, but they turned it over to the school department when they built the building. So they're responsible for all the properties that the schools sit on. So in order for the city to get it back so we could put it out for an RFP, school department had to turn the land back over to the city, to
Okay.
public properties. So they put a stipulation on it because they didn't just want to give it to us and not get what the land
So they said it's
value
going to be
is.
$4 million.
So they put a price on it of $4 million, and they said that you had to have a purchase and sale agreement by May
Of this year.
of this year.
Where does the $4 million go, by the way? To the school department or to the city
To
of
the
Lynn?
city, it goes towards capital improvements
But it goes to the city under the control of the city council.
under the control of the mayor.
Ah.
So, and-
Without consent of the city council?
well, he could take that money and use it for capital improvements.
On schools,
On
buildings? anything?
schools, roads, anything that's 5 years or more.
But not on salaries, overtime, or any of that stuff?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's a great point.
No.
Okay, just on capital equipment.
Just on capital, and we could use it on roads too.
That'd be a good idea. We got a lot of potholes, by the way.
So the talk has been that if we did get $4 million for the property, that we could match the Chapter 90 money. So we usually get around $2 million a year. So we could take that and double the amount of money and then keep the rest of it for the following year. And we could start fixing the roads. I mean, this has been the worst
So
year.
this would help the infrastructure.
Correct.
All right. So, but right now we have exactly one bid. Is there any promise on that? Have you got any inside baseball that you can talk about? Or-
I can't.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's going to be what we're looking for. If it's not, we've already talked about what we're going to do. Probably make it a little less restrictive in the RFP and maybe even open it up a little bit more because we've had people who have inquired and who have mentioned to us that they wish that there were different things put in the RFP. So, I mean, we may have the money that we're looking for.
Well, here's the thing. Today is Thursday, as you well know. It's live. But tomorrow is the deadline.
Yep.
It closes off tomorrow. There were apparently 3 interested parties, Penrose, North Shore Community Development Coalition there in Salem.
Yep. Today was the deadline. We're opening. We're going
What was
to.
the other one? Yeah. And B'nai B'rith?
Yep.
Now, they haven't responded. So, I mean, if I were to do my mathematics, 2 said, see you later. And if
Right.
there's 1 bidder, I would assume it's them, but they haven't responded, so we don't know. So we could have something actually in the works.
Right.
Right.
We could.
But we won't know, folks, and when we do, you'll let us know. Now,
You'll know Tuesday night.
you won't be able to be here next week, is that correct?
Correct.
So if we don't have the information by next week, you'll certainly give it to
You'll
us.
have it Wednesday morning.
That's right.
Yep.
781-780-9460 to join the conversation. So we've gone there. Now, there's another issue coming up, and let me get to facing reality. So if we could throw that up there for a second. There comes a point, Daren, when what you wish for and what's possible are miles apart. Your car is old, rusty, and cantankerous, but it runs. You'd like a newer car to cart your growing grandkids around, but you have a problem. You're maxed out, and you can barely meet expenses. Now, here are your options. You can cut back on expenses, get a second job or a part-time job, do both, or do nothing, stay pat. Similarly, the city of Lynn faces what it wants and what's possible. And in order to do so, it either must cut spending, raise taxes and fees, do both, or stay pat. And staying pat, fundamentally, is not an option.
Not at all. No. What we've got to do is we've got to run the city more like a business. Got to really take a look at everything that we're spending money on. We're a very old city. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our schools, the buildings, 90% of the buildings are over 100 years old. That's one of the reasons that we need 2 new middle schools. The amount of money that we just keep dumping into the schools, it's like you're putting a Band-Aid on something
hemorrhage, yeah.
on a hemorrhage.
Yeah.
And it's it slows the bleeding down, but it doesn't stop it. And it gets to a point where that bandage just absorbs so much blood that it can't stop the bleeding anymore. So, and a perfect example is that we had to put a new boiler in one of the schools over the Brickett.
And that's expensive.
Yeah, and for years and years, we just kept putting a patch on it and a patch on it till it finally got to a point where we had to put a new boiler in. So we should be doing preventative maintenance on all of our buildings, on all the infrastructure that's in the city. And you can tell just by looking at the roads, the condition of
You know,
them.
you made me think of something. Preventive maintenance, I'm a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet somehow, what's the status of the custodials? I say to myself, I was at Thurgood Marshall School the other day. Still looks pretty good, and
Yep.
that requires maintenance.
Right.
And let's not kid around.
Yep.
And the point of the matter is that when you have 1,400 kids, I think that's what you have there now. Is that, Am I right on that?
Right.
You know, anybody out there that knows you have 2 or 3 kids and they can blow your house apart. So it's really tough to ask 2 or 3 custodians to take care of 1,500 or 1,400 kids.
Yep.
You know,
But that's what they're doing.
they have to be really supermen and women.
Right, but you got to think about too that part of the reason why that building looks like it does is because of the kids that are there in that building and the teachers. They're in a brand new environment, a nice, clean environment that such state of the art that and if a kid, and I know that this happened, wrote on one of the walls in the building, and when he did that, another kid ratted him out.
Well, think about that. We have a caller, you know. Caller, let's put it up there. Where are we going to get the money to pay for taxes on top of monthly expenses? I'm a senior and ready to move out of Lynn. And that is that our dear friend Victoria?
It could be.
Yeah. And that's an interesting question.
Yep. And I feel for Victoria, but I can, and I'm not trying to sound facetious, I guess is the word, but no matter where you go, what community you live in, they're going to have expenses. And it's not any cheaper to live in any city or town around us than it is to live in Lynn. One of the reasons that we have the population that we have here is because it's not that expensive. I get it. There are a lot of people that are on fixed incomes. We have a lot of seniors, a lot of retired people, and we try to do everything we can to help them. But unfortunately, it takes money to run a city as it does to run a household.
You've been very honest. We got to go to a break shortly, but you've been very honest and upfront about the fact that we have too many nonprofits and we have too much subsidized housing in the city of Lynn, and that equation's got to change, which is one of the reasons why we're cash poor.
Yep. I don't think it's that we have too many subsidized housing, but the nonprofit groups that are in the city have to try to figure a way to contribute more to the city, whether it be financially or in other ways, and they don't have to pay taxes. And I'm a firm believer in that if there are people that are making a living in those nonprofit groups and organizations, especially some of the money that some of these people are making, and they don't live in the city, well, we've got to figure out something that's fair for everybody.
I proposed it, you know, and I'm a Republican.
Yep.
I proposed and I'm not a tax guy, that people who work in the city, benefit from the city, should pay a city tax. A
Right.
small one, but a city tax.
Right.
You know, 1% is not a whole bunch, but it is a whole bunch on a big base.
If you live in New Hampshire and you work in Massachusetts, where do you pay your state tax? To Massachusetts.
Wait a minute, that's an interesting question. You live in New Hampshire and you come to Massachusetts, you pay no state tax in Salem,
Right,
New Hampshire,
right,
but you do in Massachusetts,
yeah.
which is what, 5.65? I
Yeah.
think it is,
Yeah.
We're going to a break. We'll be right back.
Once you shoot your first needle, you become feeble. Your body begins to ache and deteriorate. If you don't seek help fast, your inner voice will wheedle you into doing worse than that.
calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
And we're back. Our number here is 781-780-9460. If you want to join in on the conversation, be my guest. We're very Shakespearean here. You understand that? So we're going to throw up, Pedro, Act 2. And it goes like this. To build or not to build? That is the question. Well, step one happens tonight. You corrected me, thankfully. The Lynn School Committee will be voting to submit a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for Pickering Middle School. Then it goes to you.
Right.
That's step two, right?
Right.
And what you do is simply certify.
That's it. That's all
a
we
need.
do. Right.
And then-
it'll take probably about 1.5 to 2 years for that.
For those two things to take place.
For that to happen.
Okay. Then the
And
third, I'm sorry,
Go
the
ahead.
third issue is you have to go for site location, right? You've got to look for that.
Right.
And get your financial house in order
Yep.
so they're able to handle it.
Right.
Then finally, the fourth step is these
To vote.
folks, their approval.
Right,
The
to
taxpayers'
vote.
Is that right?
Exactly. Now, in that 1.5 to 2 year period,
Yeah.
when the state comes in, and it may be quicker because they've already done the study and they know we need the school, then what we have to do is do the site location. We have to get the public more involved in it this time than we did the last time. Keep them informed from the very start. We've already talked about every single meeting that takes place will be filmed. So if there's a meeting that happens at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning when 90% of the people
There's a
are
record of
working,
everything that's said. No, yeah.
not only is there a record,
No
but
no
maybe
misunderstanding,
coming
yeah.
on a show once a
Right.
week or every few weeks to let everybody know what's going on. And that whole process, probably by the time we even get to the voters, will be 3 to 4 years down the
Downstream.
road. And what we're trying to do now with the budget and meeting with the DOR is to set a goal so that in 4 years, our budget is balanced.
So that you can say to the taxpayers, listen, this is not going to impact you negatively. Is that
Right.
Now, let me do a stream of consciousness here.
Mm-hmm.
A while back, I had he's the fellow who runs, his name is the basketball coach's son, you know, Herbie
Bird.
Brenner, remember Herbie? And he was terrific. And he's in charge of the pensions in the city of
Okay,
Lynn,
yeah,
correct?
yep, running.
And apparently at that time, we were at about 48, 50% fully funded, and
Yep.
we're at a rate to have it completely funded, I believe, in 2032.
Yep.
That's really an accomplishment. That takes a heavy burden off of the city, does it not?
It does, yeah. And we've got great people, financial people, and that's the direction that we're going in with the city as well. Same people are involved in it, and the same theories are being, put into it, so
It's a good thing.
it's a great thing.
We have a caller. Caller, let's get that up there. And why do city employees that we don't elect get to park for free downtown while citizens have to pay? I didn't know that.
Absolutely not. That's bull.
It's not true?
It's not true.
You say that certifiably not true?
Yeah, the only place that city workers get to park is in Johnson Street parking lot, which is attached to City Hall. No City Hall employee or city worker anywhere in the city is allowed to park anywhere in the city where other people have to pay to park, gets to park for free.
So
That's
they don't have any
absolutely not true.
insignia on the car or?
Nope,
the
unless they're
parking-
acting in an official
That's a
manner,
different
like, someone from inspectional services, or someone from the police department or fire department.
But that's legitimate.
Right.
Do we have another caller there? Am I reading this correct? If we do, no, we don't. We do or we don't? No. All right. So, to lead or not to lead, notice how Shakespearean I'm getting to be here? A yard of concrete. This has to do with LEAD, which is it called land or something like that? It's a combination of city people like community development and
Right.
the state,
federal,
everybody.
local. Yep.
So a whole bunch of people meet all the time.
Yep.
And Judy Kennedy critiqued it because she said it was too big. It's unyielding. You had to narrow the amount of people. Too many
There's
chickens.
12 people that are on
Yeah,
the
too
committee.
many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yep.
And so there was an article saying what has been accomplished. Was critiquing it.
Yep.
And there were two critiques made by one of the fellows who they took on the bus tour. They take people on bus tours,
Yep.
but no bites. These are fish dropping in a line, but nobody's biting.
Yep.
And he said one of the reasons why they're not biting is because a yard of concrete, listen to this, was fascinating, cost as much in Lynn as it does in Boston, but you can't get the same high rents in Lynn, so the disconnect.
Correct.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Right. But you can also look at it like this.
What?
That we're 20 minutes outside of Boston.
Yeah.
We're right on the railways. We have buses and everything that go right into Boston. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to make Lynn a community where the people who can't afford or don't want to spend the prices that they're getting in Boston will come here to Lynn. Because if you look at what we're providing right now with the City Hall auditorium,
Yeah.
the type of development that
However,
we're looking at
let
doing.
me stop you.
Go ahead.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Yep.
That's on the predicate that a builder is going to come in and be able to command rents that equal to and is worth his investment.
Right.
And what they're saying is that's not the case. You can take your auditoriums, you can take your proximity,
Yep.
you can take your 20 minutes and forget it.
Yep.
Unless I'm making a
Well,
buck,
what
I'm not coming
What he
in.
was saying is that the people have to face reality that own the properties, meaning that everyone's piece of property isn't worth exactly what they think it is. So they're trying to sell their pieces of property for the same money what they're getting in Boston. The land here isn't valued at the same as what it is in Boston.
So you're saying that if people are realistic about selling the property at Lynn rates,
Right.
then that would give them an incentive because they're saving money on the purchase
Yep.
before the building. And then you, the city of Lynn, come in and say, listen, we can sweeten the pie a little bit with some tax incentives.
Tiff.
That's going to attract
Yep.
building.
And we've already got that going on. In April, you'll probably start seeing the development of the Beacon Chevrolet site.
For sure?
That's what I'm being told. Now, what you have to go through, because it's on the water, the permitting process,
I understand all of that.
it takes a while. The city has done everything it can up to this point to get that project
Let
up
me
and
ask you
running.
this. We have a federal government
Yep.
now that's very sensitive to deregulation.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get out of the way of what you're talking about, all these obstacles
Yep.
that hindered the city of Lynn from being able to do some of the things it could have done if these regulations didn't exist. And you
Right.
talked about infrastructure a while back in an earlier segment,
Mm-hmm.
which is true. We have, old pipes and buildings and stuff like that. Now, if Congress and the president and the Senate were to turn around and do the infrastructure bill that they're talking about, which is $1 trillion, doesn't that help you and the city of Lynn and you and the city council? Wouldn't federal dollars flow in to take care of some of these problems and alleviate the need to raise taxes?
Yeah, well, what that would be up to is our delegation, state and federal.
But the
To go in
delegation
there-
right now fights the administration tooth and nail, which is
Well,
nuts.
not all of them. Not
Who are
all
the
of
sane
them.
ones?
And I think that because we have a Republican governor, who I actually met with for a few minutes yesterday, is fully aware of the situation in Lynn and wants to help us. And I can tell you that Tommy McGee was in the Senate, was the head of the state, state,
Transportation, yeah.
but he was also the head of the state Democratic Party.
Yes, he was.
When the governor saw him, he put his arms around him. and they talk like they were
Are you
old
talking
friends.
about Reagan and Tip O'Neill? Is this what we're talking?
That's what I'm talking about.
So-
that type of a relationship has been built.
But here's the beauty.
Yep.
Both of these guys, whether it's Baker or Tom McGee, both of them
Right.
are talking about infrastructure connectivity, which I happen to love, the idea and the concept,
Yep.
which is what you're talking about. If you can connect downtown Lynn, jump on some rapid transit, and be in downtown Boston in 15 minutes, right?
Yep.
The party's over.
Right.
Lynn,
and I
Lynn will
guarantee
blossom.
you that in the next 10 years, you will see a completely different Lynn. You will see the development more than progressing along the Lynnway.
I hope so, because I don't have that much time left.
Meaning life-wise or
Yeah,
10
likewise,
years?
yeah.
But
Something I'd like to see before I close my eyes.
Look,
Yeah.
let me tell you, and I've talked with the mayor about this, and we both agree that our plan is the plan for the next 50 to 75 years, so that our grandkids will benefit from what we do today.
So you're going to be long-range thinking. Let me ask you this. Do you think you can squeeze him a little bit so we can put him right here and let him face the public?
I can't speak for him, but
I
I'll
know.
ask him.
Ask. Because I would love. Listen, I think the guy has the heart in the right place. You know.
He's impressed me the last 6
Well,
weeks. I'm going to say that.
I would rather help work positively toward an end
Yep.
than critique and criticize. It's easy to criticize.
Yep.
It's more difficult, to face the tough battles, right?
It is. Me and Tommy have been friends, and I'm calling him now by his first name,
So-
for many years. But I want to say this, that
Yeah.
we've disagreed in our political ways of thinking, but we're both trying to achieve the same goals. And I can tell you that he works.
Well, you're a pretty conservative guy.
I am, but
I
I'm
mean,
a
you're not-
Democrat.
I
right
know,
up front.
but
I'm an old Democrat. He's
Yeah, I
a new
mean,
progressive.
you're the Democrat that I once was.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember Charlie Hoffman from the old days,
Yep.
or Freddie Goodman.
I know
I'm not
Fre-
Freddie
I knew
Goodman.
Freddie.
Excuse me, Freddie Cronin.
Yep.
I mean,
I know
this is different, and in many ways, Ray Reardon and your dad.
Yep.
There's a throwback, but
And Tom McGee Sr.
absolutely, because I remember dealing with him when I was on the city council. During the Great Fire, because
Yep.
we had to.
But I think he'd be extremely proud of his son today, where he is
Well,
and
he
what
should
he's
be.
done. Yeah.
Tom's not, he raised a nice kid.
Great
I mean,
kid.
That's it. We're going to go to a break in a little bit, in a few minutes. When we come back, we're going to move into Greater Lynn, because don't forget, this show plays in Swampscott
Right.
and the Heart,
Yep.
and we got to give some honor to them. Our number here is 781-780-9460. So we're going to go right to a break. And when we come back, get those phone calls out there. You got the council president here. Put his feet to the fire. He's a big boy. He can handle it.
Sometimes a smile can say more than words could ever express. But what if you couldn't smile? Unfortunately, that's the sad reality for so many children today. But it doesn't have to be this way. Since 1999, Smile Train has been helping children say more than words ever could with their beautiful new smile. To learn more, call or go online now.
49 million Americans struggle to put food on the table. More than 1 in 5 children are at risk of hunger. Among African Americans and Latinos, it's 1 in 3. 40% of food is thrown out in the U.S. every year, or about $165 billion worth. All of this uneaten food could feed 25 million Americans. If you or someone you know is struggling with hunger, please visit My Brother's Table at 98 Willow Street.
And we're back. Boy, we're moving rather quickly here. We're going to go to Greater Lynn, folks, and it's an interesting story taking place in Swampscott that actually got national attention, and it has to do with this principal of an elementary school who has decided to transition. They call it transgender.
Yep.
And you know, Bruce, Bruce the Caitlin, same idea as Jenna. You know, I don't know how to handle it. I mean, I'm come from a different generation, and it's up there. The principal of Stanley Elementary School has announced that he's transgender, and apparently he sent out a note to the students. He's going to be called Shannon, and he says that they can call him he, she, or they, or whatever pronoun they care. And you know, I don't. You know, my generation sees things a little differently.
Right.
And I don't know about you folks out there. Do you think is it a problem? Is it problematic? I'm taking a wait and see attitude on it, to be honest with you.
Honestly, I say good luck to them. My attitude has changed so much in the last 10 or 15 years that, you know, I'm a firm believer in live and let live now. You know, I come from a very large family, and I have all kinds of people in my family.
Different
and I
flavors,
love
huh?
every single one of them, regardless of their, what some people might say are faults or whatever, but I say good luck to them.
You know, a moral person, or morality, is not gender specific.
Right.
A heterosexual can be nasty or
Yeah,
can be
right,
nice.
right.
Same with someone who's
Yeah,
gay,
right.
or same with someone who's trans. Now,
Yeah.
I don't understand trans, so therefore I'm in no position to talk about it, okay? To be honest with you. If the parents are okay with it over in Swampscott, if the school system is okay with it, and the kids are okay with it, what can I tell you?
I mean, like you said, we live in different times. Things are a lot more open. You know, people are a lot more accepting of other people now than they were before. So,
Yeah. And actually, it making national news was not done in a negative connotation. You know, some crazy guy in Swampscott, Mass. It wasn't on that basis. It was more or less a statement and understanding, you know, it's something to ponder.
well, I think he had to make the parents aware of what was going on.
He did. He was very upfront about
Right.
everything. I mean, look, the guy's married and has 3 kids. That had to be a tough thing
Right.
to you know. And apparently his wife understands. He doesn't want to leave his wife.
That's correct.
You know, and
Good.
you know, what's he going to do? Disown his children?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
that's crazy.
And that's my point.
Do you remember there was a senator from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum? He ran for president a few years ago, and he's an Orthodox Catholic. I mean, he's right down the line, and he was being harassed by, you know, a liberal media because of his positions. And someone said to him, "How would you feel if your son came up to you and said that he was gay?" He said, "I wouldn't. I love him just the same as I did 10 seconds before he told me."
Correct.
I love that answer. I
Yeah.
never forgot that, and
Exactly.
I appreciated it.
Yep.
And that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
2, our comments, if we can get them up there. Now, just to show you that this is a hit show. One of your better shows. Don't you love that? Love. You see that? Oh, Tim, I love you just as much. Keep it coming. What love affairs I have here. This is from Sam, my father's name. I got to love him. Well, look at this one. He says, "Thank you for another great show." Sam, what a great guy you are, and perceptive. And in particular, we were inspired by your closing remarks. I'm inspired by your remarks. How's that, Sam? Why do we have to make everything government related in 45 languages, including a phone response at City Hall? That's a good point, isn't it? Why and who allowed the buildings over at the MBTA railroad tracks in Revere to prevent a connection to Lynn? That's another good point. I mean, basically, we could say, hey, the great issue is rapid transit. We could take this by eminent domain because it's for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yep.
And the heck with it. We could do that if we wanted to.
We could, but there's other options that are on the table. I mean,
And you're thinking of them. You know
right,
about them?
I do.
Go ahead.
So
Let us in.
one is to use the railway. Connect.
A parallel track to the railway?
Exactly. That's what we're talking about.
You know,
It takes money, but we've been listening and hearing for as long as I've been alive
Yeah.
that the blue line's going to come into Lynn. I think the people of Revere got tired of hearing that, and that's why they probably allowed the townhouses and the condos to be built on the right-of-way, because they were looking at it the same way we'd be looking at it in Lynn. That's money that's bringing in revenue for our city.
You know what's fascinating? They really built some, I mean, that school that you went to, that Lynn Tech, has produced a lot of sharp-minded folks. You understand that? You and Crowley are
Probably one
among
of the
them.
best schools in the state.
You don't have to tell me. I substitute down there. I'm well aware.
Yep.
Emily Joden, seriously, we really don't need any more houses. I think we need a whole bunch of houses, don't we?
Well, we
Depends on where.
it depends on where, it depends on the quality, but what we need if we're going to build new houses is new schools.
Well, I think she's saying we don't need any more single houses. I'm sorry, Emily, up at the campus.
On Linfield Street.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and Tim is saying we don't need another tax-free enterprise either.
Right.
And that's a good point.
Nonprofit, that's
Right.
something all of us agree on.
Yeah, so this is in response to the Union Hospital thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary Beth Samad Gilchrist, she likes all three options.
Mm-hmm.
She favors, her preference is Pickering.
Pickering.
That's her preference.
Yep.
Leanne Elliott, she said number 3. She voted for number 3. So we have perceptive people here, you know?
yeah.
And you're right. If we talk to you, you talk to us, or actually talk to he who can make the decisions to help you along, because I'm just chopped liver. Yeah, I am. I mean, you're the important one. I'm here
We're
for
all
the dance.
important, every one of us.
Walter Carlton, I love that one too. So we have a whole bunch of good ones. Look at the set. See the beautiful set we have? If we can get the Lynn shoreline to look like that, we don't have any problems.
That's right, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, and we are going to do it, because you
We are.
told me that the Chevy site is going. Now,
Right.
my favorite gal. Are you ready? Mae West. Where are you, Mae West? Get up there. You remember her?
I do.
Before your time?
Yep.
Look at this. Love conquers all except poverty and a toothache. Pretty good, huh? How about this one? You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. You like that one?
I don't
You
know
can't
too
see
many
it. You don't have
people
your
who do it
glasses.
right the first
You don't have your
time.
glasses, so you can't see this, right?
Right.
I have to read them to us. See, folks, he came in here. That's what you call vanity. He won't wear his glasses. Here we go. I can't see him myself. I used to be Snow White, but I drifted. This is profound. Anything worth doing is worth doing slowly. I like that one a lot.
I love that, yeah.
All, what is that word there? All discarded lovers should be given a second chance, but with somebody else. Play it again, Sam. When I'm good, I'm very good. When I'm good, but when I'm bad, I'm better. You know, she was so far ahead of her time.
Yep.
You know, I mean, did you ever see her in the movies
I've
with
watched,
W.C. Fields?
Yep, W.C. Fields and her, yeah.
Oh, there's another one down there? Oh, yeah. It takes two. I like this. It takes two to get one in trouble. I believe that it's better to be looked over than to be overlooked. Yeah, you're never overlooked.
Right.
And last but not least, he who hesitates is a damn fool. Folks, you should take, those are pearls of wisdom. Forget the philosophers. Mae West, she knows what she's talking about. You should bring her down to the city hall someday, you know.
She's got to be, is she still alive?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
If she were alive today, she'd be about 147, for God's sake.
Really, that old?
Well, I mean, she was
Well, I saw Kirk Douglas is still alive.
yeah, he's 100.
Yeah,
Yeah. And he's still alive.
yeah.
He's chasing the girl. How about George Bush Sr.? He's pinching him still.
Yep.
And he's 94?
Yep.
Folks, you never know, these old fogies, how they are. Should I live so long? Actually, I have a 93-year-old sister who we call the girl from Ipanema.
Wow.
And she can rock and roll with the best of them at 94.
Yeah.
In fact, I wouldn't want to get in a fight with her. I think she'd beat me. So, and there's only 2 left, which is amazing. You know, these 4 brothers came to this country.
Yep.
My father was the youngest, and I'm the youngest of that crew. And I'm much younger than my siblings because they were over in the old country while my father was here.
Okay.
And lo and behold, oh, I see a name come up there. I forgot to mention this. Congratulations to Brian. I was going to mention Brian Creighton. He beat Air.
Brendan Creighton.
That's his name. I'm
Right.
glad you said that. Brendan Creighton. How come I said Brian? Why did you flash Brian up there? Think they put Brian. They don't know
Did they?
themselves. But he beat Air.
Killed him. Huge, huge win.
Pedro told me to do it, huh? Yeah. Fresh. Yeah. So he won. He beat Air.
Yeah.
And he's
Gonna be a great senator.
He's temporarily there until this fall.
Right.
So if I chose as a Republican to run against him, which I won't because I'm an old guy, although you don't
Well,
have to worry
March
about
is the final election.
who
March. They're going to have an election in March for him.
against who.
Nobody.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
So he's
yeah,
running
he's there.
against nobody,
Right.
which means he's automatic.
Yep.
But he has to do it again in November, doesn't he?
Right, yeah.
So in November, should Judy Kennedy, for example, is a Republican, if she wanted to run against him, she could, or Wong
Right.
from Saugus, or Joseph S. And with me, you don't have to worry about term limits.
But I think Brendan's going to do such an unbelievable job in that short period of time that
Scare everybody out?
He'll scare
Well,
everybody out.
him and, I really like the fact that he and Danny Kael campaigned against tough people. I see it. We have no calls. See, they give me all kinds of hand signals up here, you know what I mean? It's like, trying to fly onto the aircraft carrier. I'm ready to
Yep.
crash at any moment. Would you like a pearl of wisdom?
Let's hear it.
You would?
Sure.
You seriously would?
I'm always open.
I am, James Madison
the actor?
said something I thought was very profound when he was putting together the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
He said, men are no angels. And that meant you have to have checks and balances. He would like it to be otherwise. Interestingly, that's the key to today.
Yep.
Notice what's happening at the FBI, the DOJ, IRS, State Department, across the entire spectrum of bureaucracy. There's been some dastardly people there who are not angels doing stuff that really could harm you and I. I mean, they're spying on everything. You can't do anything today without them knowing what the hell you're doing. If you burp, they know. And I find that offensive.
Human nature. Look what's going on all around the world. Everywhere.
I got to tell you, you really did get a good education down there in Tech, didn't you, huh? Philosophical.
Yeah, well,
And people think you're just a pretty face. That's
yeah.
what gets me.
I know, I am.
Over and above that. So we'll be missing you next week.
Yeah.
The week after, you come here with your dancing show. Notice how good he looks, folks. I mean, take a look. Nice jacket, huh?
Thank you.
Color coordinated. He's wearing these wonderful places from Duluth, what they call jeans.
Duluth.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
But don't forget, this is a working man. This is not one of these effete, representatives. He is out there with calluses on his hands from helping out his constituents. Victoria will tell you that, by the way, Victoria S. And on that note, my cousin was watching. Michael Spina, a wonderful guy, who lives in your district, who said, you're the best. 0 minutes left. It's time to go. Have a great week. See you next week, same time.